the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. First on the agenda, are there any changes or additions, Dan?
Yes, if we could add, appoint new member to the EMS volunteer roster.
Okay. Next, approve the minutes. The minutes of June 17th, 2019. Make a motion to approve them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Hold on one second. Yes, I was wondering about, I don't know what page it is, number 12, under section 7. Did we have to have a second for that motion?
Any motion has to have a second. Yeah.
Do you see what I'm talking about?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I missed the second part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good catch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So pass. Next, the minutes of June 19th, 2019. A motion to approve those.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Next, we have a special award ceremony tonight for one of our EMS volunteers or paid person. Go ahead, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much for making time for us tonight. My name is Dan Batesy, and I'm from the Department of Health. And this is a very special opportunity for us. We give out what's called our life-saving award for special occasions, for special circumstances, where a member of our EMS community goes above and beyond and exhibits extraordinary actions in the process of saving a life. So this is what I'm here tonight to talk about. I'll be brief, but rather than trying to put them in my own words, I thought I would just read you the nomination because I think Bill Mates, the author of the nomination, put it far more eloquently than I could ever speak. On May 23rd, there was a crash on Route 108 in approximately 1840 hours. A vehicle hit a concrete building and 2 passing motorists had stopped, including off-duty Morristown EMS Assistant Chief Corey Robert. There was poor 911 cell coverage and Corey was unable to raise the Loyal dispatch on the radio. The single occupant in the car was unresponsive. He was bleeding from the mouth, nose, and ears and appeared pinned under the passenger side dashboard. As Corey began her assessment of the victim, there was a whoosh as the vehicle caught fire and flames rolled over the crushed hood and windshield. In that moment, Corey could have stayed or backed away. She stayed. Without the protection of any turnout gear and at great personal risk, she grabbed the victim under the arms, directed a couple of bystanders to assist, and as things got hotter, they managed to remove him from the car. He was moved to a place of safety, and Corey set about keeping his airway clear with positioning and sweeps while awaiting EMS and fire to arrive. On arrival of Northern EMS, she assisted the crew with further assessment, IV placement, and the patient was transported to Copley Hospital for stabilization prior to transfer to UVM's Trauma Center. This event is remarkable and notable for several reasons besides the obvious. This happened during National EMS Week, and this year's promotion was EMS Strong Beyond the Call. Corey is 5'0" tall and recovering from a surgical knee repair. Her determination, leadership, and courage reflects honorably on herself, their agency, town, and Vermont public safety community. So on behalf then of all of those stakeholders, including the Vermont Department of Health and Vermont EMS, we would like to award Corey with a life-saving award.
Do I hear a speech, Corey?
I just am humble, and it's nice to get the award, but like I've said so many times, it's another day. I mean, everybody else there are the ones that go through the thought process of the what ifs, and we just do it. So to me, it's the opposite. It's not me that should get the attention. But I'm very thankful.
That's great. Well, we're certainly all very proud of you,
Thank you.
and we appreciate that award. That's fantastic. Thank you. And thank you, Corey. And thanks, Bill.
Honored to have you working in our town.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I would add to the fact that you may be writing off the courage that you showed that day, but I'm not. A lot of folks in the EMS world, police, fire, and EMS, are faced with dangers every day, and they have to make that split-second decision. And it comes down to the person that you are, whether you stay or go, or you assess the situation. Sometimes the decision is that you have to go. This one you made and brought that gentleman to safety, and that took great courage. So don't downplay that. I appreciate your humbleness, but that
It was, in the
impressive.
20-year career, it was probably the hardest decision I've made to stay or back away. Many did, many backed away for good reasons. And it's like a reality check at the thought of the commitment that you've given to this career. Knowing that I have 3 kids and, you know, a career still to go to, but yet I chose to stay there. And that's what I replay. I don't replay anything else except that actual decision that I made.
And the fact that you were there at that moment in time, we could debate why that happened too.
Yeah.
But, definitely you were there for a reason, and I appreciate it.
Yes, I think of that 5 minutes earlier, 5 minutes later.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
And Bill, thank you for making this all happen too. Much appreciated.
Very proud of them.
Great. Thanks again. All right, we'll move to community concerns. Do we have any community concerns tonight? Yeah, yeah. Next, liquor control. Do we have liquor control? No? New business. Noise house, dog park, and parking discussion. Do you want to, Sarah, do you want to talk about this?
The dog park?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear back here.
Yes,
No, she has the ballpark. Repeat what we're talking about.
dog park and parking discussion. Sorry, Mary. I try to speak loud.
I will. I'll try to use my best school teacher voice and not my life.
I remember it well.
Some of you should. I find the location of a dog park behind the Historical Society as being appropriate. The Noyes House is an historical icon, and a dog park behind it does not fit the image. If you want to reflect the time period of 1820, try a cow or a horse or a couple of sheep out back there, but not a dog park. The open space around the Noyes House is already limited, and blocking off more will only detract from its surroundings. As you enter and leave the village, the Noyes House at one end of Main Street and PA at the other end form sort of a
Anchor.
boundary of the village and 2 landmarks that have architectural importance, certainly to the town. And it leaves, and looking up and down that way, leaves a favorable image of the village. I also wonder about the parking. Parking, as I understand it, on the lower end of Main Street seems to be concern of many, and adding a dog park would only bring more cars. I've heard that they might think of paving some of the Historical Society grounds, which would further conflict with the whole 19th century image of the Historical Society. The Noyes House is of value and should not be detracted from by anything. I wonder on the need for a dog park. I've had dogs, 3 of them, since I've lived in Morristown, and at both my current house on West High Street and my house on Maple Street. I never found any trouble in walking them on our very well-maintained, year-round streets and sidewalks. And then It's easy to say no to something, but sometimes you should provide alternatives. So I have gone around town and looked at some possible alternatives. One possible location would be the Oxbow. I noticed that there are setups for 3 soccer fields currently down there. I was up at the high school and there are setups for 4 more up there. I doubt that 7 soccer fields would be in use at any one time. I also went down on A Street, and you know where the 2 old buildings are, there were mills or whatever down there. And there's a cutoff to the right with a path that leads through to Tomlinson's. There was water down there the day I was there, but certainly with some fill and clearing out the brush, the underbrush in that area, that could be used as a dog park, and there is parking in the area. The land surrounding the school that is concerned with noise, you could just say it's closed to the dogs during school hours. And there's an area in front of the observatory on the hill, beyond the walking path, that as far as I could see was being used for nothing. In fact, the grass had grown up to be about this high. The area beyond the fence to the right of the middle school and before the soccer fields is also an area where there might be some marked off for a dog park, if a dog park is really essential in the village. But mainly, I think my concern is the ambiance of the noise house. A dog park does not fit in as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, I live right next door to the museum. And I tell you, when I got this letter, I thought, the last thing I want is dogs barking and running around out back, or that is my peace and quiet. Now, I wondered, I've always had a dog, until recently, but what I wanted to know was, did they search any other place, or how did they come up with this, and how many people are investing in this? Did they look at any other place to have a dog park?
Do you want to talk about it, Sarah?
So yeah, Trish and I, and Malia have been working on it, and I don't know who to address.
Just the room.
So we first started looking at the spot that was near the playground in the Y, where the bike shed is across from the library. The select board had some concerns about that. But that was originally where we were thinking of an area. When I was here for the skate park committee meeting, well, the select board meeting, that there were so many people for the skate park, and they were talking about the skate park at the Oxbow and that use of parking lot and looking for a different location. It occurred to me at that time that the skate park probably would make more sense to be at the park in an open location right next to the regular park. So it was all that similar recreation activities. And the dog park is simply a fence, and that would be better in a tucked in town area that was not in the middle of downtown, because all you needed was a grassy area for fence with trees. And so I asked at a staff meeting where was town property that was available within the village, because the dog park would be primarily for people that lived in the village that could walk their dog to a fenced area. There is the Oxbow, but not all dog owners want to have their dogs running around. And actually, I believe we have an ordinance where you're not really supposed to be having your dogs running without a leash in town. So we're looking for a place in town to provide a fenced-in area for people to walk.
Or couldn't you fence in an area down like the Oxbow or all around the school?
I don't think, we are looking for an area that the town owns, so I don't believe it could be on school property.
Does the school own the loop in in the woods, and then it comes out in that semi-mode. Is that school
The
property?
school has quite a bit of acreage that goes back there.
They do, but we don't have control over that property.
Yeah.
So perhaps Malia might ask that, that's a fantastic idea. I'm from Barry, and the dog park in Barry is in a similar location to, if you think about the school, there's the track, there's the upper soccer field, and then across the little stream, there's that kind of a more wild field that goes into the trails. And some sort of dog park there, because I see dog owners all the time on that. In Barry, the dog park is right off the bicycle path in Barry. To get to it, you park at the Barry City Elementary School, and you walk down a bit with your dog on a leash, and then there's, as Sarah imagines, a fenced-in area that's pretty much exactly the size of what you were kind of talking about with the noise house. And it's a good location because there are walkers anywhere, there are recreators anyway there. And so to hear Mary say that, I think, oh, that would look a lot like the Barry Dog Park, and that would be a logical place for it because there are already people recreating outdoors at the school and already dog owners, as I said, using that wooded trail.
I know we're certainly, as a board, I think we're all kind of open to some ideas. I know Sarah and her daughter Malia is really looking for the spot, you know, and looking to town property is you know, the easiest avenue because we have control of that. Like the school property is not a bad idea, but it may be much more of a hurdle to try to get permission to have one there because I know it's in town, but we have no control over the school property. So that would add something else. Go ahead, Andrea.
I'd like to add that the Oxbow seems to be like a perfect place to have it, but after having a daughter who played soccer there for many years, she hated it because there was always dog poop. And she hated playing on a soccer field that had that. Why they always had to play soccer there when we had plenty of fields up at the school, I've never understood, but that's just one thing about the Oxbow that I've never liked when people go down there with the dogs and let them go because next thing she's out of the field and she's trying to
Dodge a poop.
slide at it.
Well, I think wherever it would be, it would have to be fenced in, right? So it would have to be like a section down at the Oxbow.
So something like that would
Right,
happen.
but you can't mix free running and fenced-in area. Okay, and everyone in this community takes their dogs that have a dog that they can off-leash, and take it to the Oxbow Park. And so, and me thinking about this, and this was something we talked about from the get-go on this one. There's just no possible way you can put a fence up and have the other guy come and let his dog run, and you have some dogs playing in a fenced area. You cannot have them together in one park. It won't happen, it can't happen. Because you're gonna get this dog over here that wants that dog over there, and there's a fence in between them. It just,
I'm not following what you're saying. If the fenced-in area is for letting dogs run freely off-leash, then the rest of the park would be for leashed dogs only, I would think. Is that the thought process?
yes. Yeah, but who is going to enforce that? This whole community knows, like if you have a dog, you let it just be, you go down to Expo Park, if you can trust your dog, to let it just run free. So are we talking to put in a fenced-in area? And you have to remember, we can't put it on the low side of that park because of the floodplain. So I don't know personally, I love Oxbow Park, but I don't think that Oxbow Park is the place to put a fenced-in dog park. I don't see it as the mix of what is already there. I don't see that we have room on our upper fields, that it would be out of our floodplain. It has to be on the upside. It can't be, we all see it every single year, the flooding on the bottom side.
I don't think there's any way to enforce, no matter where we put it, I don't think there's any way to enforce.
No, I agree with you.
People aren't
But
off
I
leash.
think it should be in a place that it's separate from where people presently let their dogs run free.
That begs the question, if we're gonna have a fenced-in dogs off-leash area in town, are we now going to enforce leash law at the Oxbow Park? Because I don't see anybody, whether it's donations or any otherwise, putting the money into a fenced-in area if nobody's gonna use it, just go down to the Oxbow Park and let the dogs run anyway. That's the.
Sarah, talk on that note about you guys and Izzy. And I heard two other people talk at one of our meetings about how they take their dogs to the Waterbury Dog Park.
Yeah, we moved out of the village about 2 years ago, but when we were in the village, because we couldn't let her free, we just had a little village lot. We wouldn't let her run around at the Oxbow. We would drive into the Waterbury Dog Park to let her run in a fenced-in area with dogs that, and I have copies of their rules, I have a few, that there were, there's rules for the dogs that can go. They have to be up in shots and they have to be managed, and so we would, yeah, you have to be, you can't be a puppy, and so that's where we would take her. Now we moved out of the village, so we have a yard she can run in, but.
Well, and the fact is, they're not supposed to be running here for free either. They're supposed to be always on leash. Isn't that correct?
And I think that's the way it should be.
I thought we waived the oxbow.
I don't think we,
It's in the,
Yeah.
the ordinance that it's.
It is.
It is
it
waived.
shouldn't be.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, that and the school both, I don't think animals, dogs should be running loose. Games and things up there, kids running around, I don't think,
Right.
but we haven't enforced it, and I don't know.
Maybe we have an issue, but I think you're right. I think we should.
Right,
Well, if it's waived, then we wouldn't be enforcing it. I didn't realize it was waived at the hospital.
Jill, you had a comment?
I was just gonna say, I'm here as the chair of the board of the Morristown Historical Society, so we run the Noise House, and we have our own separate list of concerns that we emailed to the select board that include, noise, odor, damage to the lawn, the impact of the museum visitorship, given to dogs, not exactly the same populations, all sorts, a host of issues. But I feel like with this proposal at the back of the Noise House lawn, I feel like the most respected voice really should be the neighbor who lives in the White House, because it really will completely alter her sense of her surroundings.
Not only that, it's gonna affect the value of my house if I ever wanted to sell it. Who wants to buy a house next to a dog park when you're out? First of all, I didn't understand what hours they plan to do this, or who's gonna pick up after the dogs, or are they gonna hire someone to be out here watching this, or? They don't. I watch them come down the street. There's a man that comes down every 3 times a day with 2 dogs. I've never, ever seen him pick up anything. And the lady too, there's a lady that has 2 little teeny dogs that comes down at least twice a day, but I've never seen her pick up anything either.
I hear that a lot in the village. I always pick up after my dog. People have told me in the village, like, we watch and you're one of the few people, which is too bad,
No,
but
it is.
it does seem to be a problem. From the museum point of view, our concerns, as I said, include noise, traffic, where there's already the other part of the conversation tonight is about the need for more parking down there to accommodate the restaurants and whatnot. And people visiting a dog park will be driving there unless they live in the village. And so that raises questions about compounding the demand for parking. We don't yet have more parking to provide. Also, if you think about any trafficked area like that, our Noise House lawn will be significantly damaged. What landscape architects refer to as desire lines, which are those single file dirt paths across college campuses as shortcuts. That's just human nature. People parking and then walking across the majority of the Noise House to get to the back near the neighbor's fence are going to damage the lawn. One of my concerns is that I think it's human nature to rally when you're invested in a cause such as a dog park and people are all hands on deck to make it happen. And as is my understanding of the conversations around the defunct skate park, I mean, there were parents in the community who were fully in support of making the skate park happen, and then it just fell into disrepair, and there had never been a long-term plan put into place, like who's gonna repair this, who's gonna maintain this, what happens 10 years down the road when sections need to be repaired. And that, I'm afraid a similar situation would happen, that people who are invested in the idea of the dog park will be all on board to make it happen, and then will disappear, and then we'll have a maintenance issue. We do have landscaping issues, and I was the one early days when I was told about this to bring up the fact that humans being humans who want to exercise their dogs but don't want to exercise themselves will in fact drive across our Noise House lawn to get as close to the dog park gate as they physically can get. And the rebuttal to that was sort of, gosh, who would do that? Which of course we know everybody would do that. So then, it was kind of on us at the museum to say, our lawn will be destroyed, people absolutely will violate, even if it's a rule that you can't drive across the green grass to get to the gate of the dog park, they absolutely will do that. So unless we police the lawn 24/7, we're gonna have a problem. And the dog park organizers didn't really see it as a problem. That's obviously a huge problem, and that to me it's just one example of sort of, what do they call that? Motivated reasoning. Like, you want the dog park, you're motivated to get the dog park, so you're only gonna see the rosy lens view. It's motivated reasoning. You don't see any of the bad part. So the neighbor's voice is very valid, because she does realize that there will be drawbacks. So anyway, the last point is that it was from the museum the point that would happen, and then late in the game, Tricia said, yes, you were right, we would have to put some sort of barricades on either side of that Civil War era sycamore tree, because people being people, they will drive on either side of that tree to get their cars to the gate. So, go ahead.
The other thing I thought about was, in the wintertime, what in the world are they gonna do? The town plows up the snow from the police station over into the historical driveway, and sometimes it's piled right up to high on that sycamore tree. What are they gonna do in the wintertime to maintain this place?
They won't be using it in the winter if snow's piled up like
So
that.
I only want it in the summertime, and
People will use the dog park in the future.
Yeah, they will.
I think there's a population of the dogs that aren't being represented here, so let me be the voice for them. I think we probably have some village residents whose dogs would probably take off if taken off leash, and I think that's the population we're looking to serve. I don't see us trying to enforce the oxbow dogs running freely out there. I think we're asking way too much of Richard, the police, whoever it should be. But I think the fenced-in area is an area that we're trying to develop for animals that otherwise would not obey their owners, but the owners would love to have them have some free running area. They don't have that, perhaps they live in an apartment, multi-story apartment, and they aren't able to have them run free. So I think I'm leaning and agreeing that the museum is not an ideal spot, in my opinion, for the dog park. But the area I'm thinking of, Trish, when I come down to Wednesday Night Live, I park out by Borman's building, and I come in on the path, which is behind RK Miles, between RK Miles and the river.
The backside.
Yeah, and as soon as I break out of that foliage area, there seems to be a corner right there that doesn't really see any activity during Wednesday Night Live. I'm not sure if anything ever gets set up over that far. I'm wondering if that might be a possible alternative for a fenced-in area for folks to use. It's kind of away from all the rest of the area. If folks are still letting their dogs run at large and they can contain them easily, that's fine, they're still gonna do it. But for those folks whose dogs won't stay with them the minute the leash comes off, I'm just thinking if it's all in the same area, the dog's running, and then one area down there might be the better alternative. I'm just suggesting that as a possible location.
Is that town owned?
The corner, well, as for where the Oxbow property line is, I don't know, up in that corner, but in that back corner up there, I don't see anything.
My own thought off the top of my head is RK Miles owns the property.
Okay, and I'm not sure what the town line
I
is.
don't have our map again.
Let me see if I can get one. I might be able to wave my hand.
Tricia, is the school on that little triangle where the free bike shed is? Next to the Grady building?
That's where we started, Jill.
That would be a great spot.
We actually surveyed the neighbors, sent out letters to all the butters. That's where we started with this whole thing.
So it's privately owned.
We own town.
Oh!
Yeah,
No,
no,
we're not doing it there, why not? Seriously?
What were the
Because
concerns?
That's a potential spot for the skate park to move to.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think the skate park would be a good idea behind the noise
Nope.
No.
house.
And the skate park in
So.
the skate park in its current location was not advantageous to anybody. It eats up parking down at the Oxbow. So if there is going to be a concerted effort to rebuild the skate park, to find the right location for it was, the idea of it being where it's highly visible, with streetlights to light it at night. That little corner, that little section up there by the bike shed seemed to be a more welcoming location for the skate park. We still don't know if that's where it's gonna go or not, but we're trying not to put the dog park there. but I,
This kind of shows where the RK Miles property lines are. So this area back in here,
mhm.
which I think is what you talked about, this is, Bourne's service garage. And so the property line goes quite a ways back, just so you understand. It's not, so I think even part of our community covers, if I'm right, we're actually on their property.
Okay. I don't, I would research what this corner of our property, right down here, if that's in the flood zone, then it's obviously not gonna work. Because the ice blocks come up there and destroy everything that's in there, but.
Judy, you have any comments?
Just listening.
Does
I
any,
agree with Mary and the rest of the people at the Noise House. I haven't gone back to look at the property, but I think people would drive over that property to get to the dog park. And walk paths through the property too, to get there.
yeah,
Well, I kind of was questioning whether that one down by the school, where the skate park used to be, the skating rink. But I'd rather have it there than I would the Noise House. Because I do agree, that Noise House is precious the way it is, I think. And I mean, if we put park in there, I don't even think we should pave it. It should be dirt park.
Honestly, we own quite a chunk of land there. That Y is pretty good size.
Yep.
Maybe we need to go back to our drawing table. Maybe we could put a skateboard park and a thing there. You know, when we looked at it, we cut it about in half, Dan, when we looked at our first set of plans. Maybe it
Where?
could work for both.
The triangle?
Yeah, I'm game to go back to the drawing board. This is why we're all here.
well, that's
And
the idea
that's where
of
we
discussion.
started. And
Yeah.
I love the idea, and I wasn't at the next meeting when they talked about Noise House, but it was in the conversation. You know, for many reasons, that, it's by the kids' playground, you know, you take your kids out, you take your dogs out, you know, there's just a lot of great parts to it. And I'm not saying that I didn't love the Noise House Museum area too, don't get me wrong, but I do think, yes, I hear their comments, and no problem going back to the drawing board.
How many people are interested in this dog park? Did they find out?
It's kind of like if you build it, they will come. There's a lot of people that would use a dog park. I've heard of a lot of people.
Yeah, I believe that one of the populations it would serve are people who live in apartments in the village who don't have any green space, who would
Yeah.
maybe take their little dogs to a fenced area. I just want to say, Brian, I really appreciate what you're saying, voicing, respect for the integrity of the Noise House landscape, and that means a lot to us at the museum. And we're at the museum willing to work, with the town on different initiatives. This dog park proposal in particular, sort of on the fence about, but primarily what it comes down to is I just feel terrible for the nearest landowner, because I feel like, oh, that for me, that doesn't seem fair.
Well, certainly, this discussion is really helpful, I think going back to the drawing board's good. I did want to recognize Malia's work that she's doing. She's doing this as a project, and she's put a lot of time and effort into it. And, it'd be nice to find a solution that we can all live with, and that's why a discussion here tonight is great, because maybe we can look back at the other location. But I know Leah's put a lot of time and effort into it, so.
And it wouldn't be possible to do like B Street, it would still, there would be noise, but you wouldn't see the dogs, and there wouldn't be the human traffic. If you fenced in just that wooded hillside along B and A Street, and let dogs run in there and put like a bench down at the lowlands on B Street.
Water light owns, right?
I think that's still tied up with their licensing for the dam right now, which has been appealed. So there's been a lot of discussion about different things that could happen down there, but that whole property is part of the dam, which is still under appeal to right now, I think, to the Vermont Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so none of that can really, not a lot can be done there, at this stage of time. Nobody knows when all that will really end.
How big, Malia, were you thinking of the dog park would be?
400 square? How much is that?
10 feet by 10 feet by 40 feet.
But this is for a topic I really want to know. When we were talking about when people don't pick up after their dogs, we saw at like the Waterbury Dog Park that they had a really cool thing where there's like shovels all over like the fence, leaning on the fence, and then they had these holes in the ground with a metal thing on top. And if you saw like a piece of dog poop, you would put it in the hole, and there's like a bunch of, and they called it like the compost things. And once they got built up, they would empty it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think, Leanna, I think that, I don't know what the official studies on dog parks are, but my sense of the one in Barry that I visited is that the visitors, there's like a mutual policing that goes on. So whereas people who let their dogs poop on the neighbor's lawn on an evening walk, if they try that in a fenced-in dog park, they'll be called out by other users. So I don't envision that there'll be poop on the ground as much as, you know, bucketed as it is in Barry, and then in the hot July heat wave, there will be an odor that'll bother the neighbors unless whoever was in charge of cleanup was in charge of it.
That's cool.
That's what he said, though. People in a dog park, they police it.
Thank you,
It's
Maureen.
not like at Expo where you were talking about, Andrea, where they just let their dog.
Right, but then there's gotta be like strong oversight. Whoever is assigned to pick up the collected poop has to be held responsible. You know, if it's July and it's hot and the neighbor can smell it, and nobody's come for a week, it's gonna be a problem, right?
It is really-
Relating to that is the dog's barking, and how are you going to control the dog's barking?
Right.
My dogs don't bark.
Yeah. It is nice though, it's a nice thing to have a dog park in the town. I know that my wife and I went to Plattsburgh. We were over there with our puppy and driving through Plattsburgh, and we saw this chain link dog park, and it was great for the puppy because, you know, he needed a place to get out and he could go, and it was so organized. There was nobody there to police it except for other users, and there was like the sign with etiquette, and it was like, it was perfect. It wasn't that big, and you remember that? And it was like, it worked great, and people were respectful, and, you know, that's one thing I remember about Plattsburgh is how great their dog park was, you know? And it was a simple
I think it
thing.
could be a fantastic thing. I just, as I think we're all saying, you need to find a spot where
Right.
it's not gonna negatively impact the quality of life of.
Well, I'm not going to
Right.
detract from the Historical Society.
Right.
Which is
Right.
a nice piece of architecture.
Right.
And the dog park behind it does nothing to, it's not in keeping with the 19th century feel of that building.
Even if there's black fencing? Here you go.
No.
Cast iron.
Well, it sounds like what I'm hearing is that it'd be good to go back and look at the options again, look at the past ones. Does that sound agreeable? Rather than,
Does it have to be in the village?
Yes.
Probably should be for those,
By
the
law.
low-income apartment dwellers who
And-
don't have.
Right,
Yeah.
and what we read about them, it really needs to be right in the village.
so, this, yeah,
Five
getting
million
there.
houses for apartments, you ought to provide a space for.
Right, well, that's not a bad idea, actually. There
So,
were like 4 landlords in the village, they should pool their resources and
Yeah.
come up with a fenced-in area.
we'll let them take that back to the drawing board. Yep. On the separate issue is the parking issue, and we've had several conversations about it. Not necessarily, we've never talked about paving. I don't know where you got that, Mary, but we've never talked about paving the Noyes House driveway that I know of. And we have talked about utilizing some of the town-owned property on the outer edge that's connected directly with the road. Like the part we looked at was on the road side of that hedge, the cedar hedge. There's an opportunity for 6 or 8 places there easily that wouldn't detract from the Noyes House Museum at all.
You mean to destroy that lovely new sidewalk with the dog park?
No, that was part of a federal earmark.
That was part of the
Okay, well
I mean,
well, from going down there, and I've been down there about 10 times now, so I'm very familiar with that spot, and it was actually Jill, I think, that pointed it out as a possibility of a place that could
Yes.
be parking.
Yeah, and as I say, we're very willing to work with the town.
Yeah.
And so Bob and I walked the perimeter of the lawn, and they already have a plan to do, is it 6 angled spots?
Actually, I got 2 drawings, I have one up here, and I can
Yeah.
walk through it if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, discussion about parking on that end of the town. So Peter Bourne has allowed us, there's this lot here, now, and then there's a lot here. Mark said that he will give us an easement to put parking spaces there. Right now, we can probably get 1, 2, 3, 4 parking spaces there. And that's where the drop off is, but he's gonna let us fill it in. And then in front of the noise house, and this is actually still in the town right away, where we have, parallel parking now, and we're gonna change it to angle
Is
parking.
that just 3 places?
I think there's 2 there now. There's 2. And once again, this is still in the town right away, and we can convert those 2 parking spaces that are there now into 5 parking spaces. And then on down in front of the hedge, I think that you and Bob talked about, and Bob and I looked at it, we actually made pull in, not angle, because what we didn't want was people, angling out and going around down to the end of West High Street, turning around. So there's straight pull-in spaces.
What does that mean?
That means so they won't go down to the end of the street, you know?
90 degree, they're not at an angle, so people will.
Oh,
say-
right, oh, I see, they're,
Right,
And you
they
could-
see your driveway. The
Yeah.
people
so they're
down
back
the
out
street.
straight.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
right.
And actually, so we could get another 6 spaces and a little sidewalk, there would actually be a crosswalk behind those parking spaces. We saved probably a good 50% of that hedge that we talked about.
We don't love that hedge
Well,
anyway, but it's fine.
But I kind of wanted to keep it there because it does block light
Yep.
ways and stuff like that.
And it's a dividing line too, keep
Exactly,
people
it's
off.
very much a dividing line. And
Yes.
then we were gonna put a guardrail on, West High Street there to prevent people. from
Where it's steep.
backing over. So that's a little bit, so that's kind of, from all the input that Bob and I have gathered, that's kind of the input for the parking. So in the downtown area, that's an additional 4, 9, 15 parking spaces.
And that should do it for the foreseeable future.
And would you be doing this in one project or in
I
steps?
would love
like
to
the-
get this done this year, if possible, and how much.
One
we
project.
So is this the date to relieve daytime parking?
Yes.
Because I was gonna say, as you all may know, I walk up and down that area enough to be very aware of when the parking spaces are being used and when they're not. And such as one of the ones in front of the Historical Society currently is being used by someone who's parking there all day and must be someone who works
Right.
in the immediate area,
Right.
which does not seem appropriate
Yeah.
for what should be a parking lot for people who are just there down there to eat or something.
Patrons, yeah. Right.
And also, while we're on that bit, I've made this complaint before, with your angle parking,
3.
you need to be very careful when you get near a crosswalk, because the crosswalk from in front of Bourne's over to the triangle there, if you're coming from the Bourne side, you have to go to get halfway out into the
Right.
walkway, halfway out to see beyond the car that is parked in the furthest space. And this is okay if you're someone like myself, you can peek out and see if anything's coming down. But if you're like my neighbors with small children, this is not the place to be pushing your stroller and having somebody coming down.
The other thing is, where you have the 3 parking spaces in front of Bourne's or the newspaper office, every day, there's 3 big, long pickups that park there.
We're aware of that.
And they park all day long.
Yeah.
And they come about 6:45 in the morning. And they stick out. And then in addition to that, sometimes they have, one of them has a big, I don't know what you call it, hook on the back.
Yeah.
So it sticks out even further. You don't always see that when you're coming down, driving around.
One of our efforts was to put a compact car sign out there.
Yeah.
And we actually know one of the truck owners, well, I think 2 of them. And they are people that work right there, so.
Yeah, they park all day.
Yeah,
And Peter Bourne also asked if we could put 2-hour parking, 2-hour max.
yeah, that's good.
And those spaces right there.
Cars would be fine.
Compact cars and 2-hour parking only in those spaces.
But
You know,
it's
It's not
surprising.
something that you're really gonna enforce so much, but sometimes when you pull in and you see that and you know you're gonna be there all day and say, oh, let me just pull over here instead. You know, that's what we're looking
If
for.
you leave your big truck in front of a compact car sign,
A lot of times, even in the evening, it's hard to find a parking spot there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not easy. You go to dinner at El Toro and there's no place to park. Like the Union Bank parking lot is full, across the street, that's full from the patrons for the pizza place, and there's no place to park on there. So it's not just during the day. I watch it very carefully. I go back and forth. You know, I'm really local, and I've been really studying this for a couple months now. And I see the use, and a lot of it is just stop in the morning, pick up coffee and donut or whatever. But a lot of it is just a lot more cars in the area, and we need more parking. I think this was a resolution to, you know, instead of doing the angle parking, because we know the safety concerns of that. And this is a better alternative. I think Richard probably agrees with that too. Richard, go ahead.
I'm back to the front of the noise house.
Yeah.
How many feet of the lawn do you think it would take for that?
Well, yeah, there's that tree, actually that tree is there, so it actually has a split down it, so it's just on, our property line is just on the other side of that tree.
Okay. Well, how many feet is that from where we are now?
I think it's like 9 or something.
I think it was 9 feet.
19 from the whole thing, yeah. Well, we talked to Jill about moving the sign, you know, the sign in that clump of
Yeah, we have to move that
perennials.
back. Yeah, we would hope that that'd be part of what you would pay for,
Yeah.
have that replanted for us.
Right.
Yeah.
When you drive down the street now, if there's 2 cars parked there, you can see the building.
Mhm.
Nice. I would hope that the new parking area is level with the street. and
Right.
not incline where the cars then start to block out the building.
That's a good point.
So,
That's a good
you
point.
can make sure that happens. That
Yeah.
would be good.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Jill.
Okay, well, so the last point I'd like to make, in this kind of joint discussion of the dog park and the parking areas at the museum, is that I appreciate, as I said, that people respect and appreciate the architecture and the landscaping of the Noise House. Going along with that, we do a lot for the community, as I'm sure you know. I'll just list a couple of things really quickly. We're 3 summers into what will probably be a 6-summer long project of professionally cataloging all of our collections. You may not know that if your grandma donated her rocking chair to the museum in 1962, until about 2 years ago, we didn't really know if we had it or not, which is not okay. So that's been a huge project. We're going to do a 3-part Histria themed trivia night with Tom Moog, 2 nights at Moog's, one in July, one in August. The 3rd finale, Tom Moog's going to bring his liquor license to our tent on the lawn for a Saturday in early September. And all the questions will be Morrisville history or Vermont history. We're currently taking the staff office and moving it to a smaller room off the kitchen, so that what is currently the staff office, it used to be apparently Copley's bedroom, will be available for rotating exhibit space. So we're doing a lot for the community, and as you've all said, we're really valuable to this community, and we're willing to work and compromise and come up with parking spots, and what we would like in return is a long-term lease on the building, and we should have pushed for this when we transferred ownership of the property from Water and Light to you folks at the town, and I'm not sure why we didn't, but it is scary to me to think that we have no recourse. We own our collections, but we've basically wrapped that beautiful brick house in a bow and handed it to you as a gift. We do appreciate that we have money in the budget every year now to peck away at our very extensive to-do list, structural problems in a 200-year-old house. But we would like some sort of long-term 50, 75, 100-year even lease. It's my understanding that the ski museum has that from the town of Stowe. It's my great fear that somebody like, I don't know, Starbucks is gonna come along and offer you enough money and you're gonna send us an eviction notice to get out of the Noise House.
Never.
And we have no, we should have, and so because we have Dick on our board and he is the town lawyer, and so it seems like a beautiful situation where the select board could work with Dick to come up with some sort of long-term lease to protect the Noise House.
I can tell you that I don't think that this is an issue. I can think of no quicker way to get lynched at my house than to try and sell off the heart of our community, which is the history of it. I think the Noise House Museum is there forever. I never mind getting voted off the board. I love working here on this board. I love this community. I've watched my own home community sell its town hall.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, it still hurts to this day that they did that, because it needed upgrading. And rather than fight for the grant money to upgrade it, they sold it. And they sell in the heart of your community. The Noise House Museum holds the heart and history of our community. I don't see this being an issue. I don't think the Noise House Museum will ever be considered to be sold. It is Morristown.
But I feel the same way. I've got 6 generations here, like I said, and, you know, my grandfather repointed those chimneys several times, you know. You know, we hold it very highly and near and dear. Maybe all of us won't be on the board always, but we certainly can protect it. We can write something up to protect it. You know, we did take over the liabilities of it that came with everything else, but we also want to covet that treasure, you know. And I'm even thinking maybe it'd be wise to have one of us on the board to be a liaison to the Historical Society, so we can have an ongoing, you know, back and forth.
Todd is now.
Yeah.
That would
Todd Thomas is.
Yeah.
Todd is, I know that, I think he would like to become a regular trustee of the Noise House Museum, in which case, absolutely, we'd love to have one of you.
The select board would be good.
Yep, yes, that would be great. And so you and Dick perhaps can work together to come up with a long-term lease for the museum?
Yeah, we can figure it out.
Would that make sense?
We can talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
We need people like Mary and Dick to keep us in line anyway, so we're used to
Yes.
that. And Gloria,
All
that's
right,
Gloria.
great, thank you.
So are we all good about the parking though?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I personally
Okay.
feel like that was a genius idea I had.
It was.
Because Bob was gonna
was.
gravel behind the hedge,
Yeah,
and once you
not
gravel it-
pave, never
Right.
pave.
But no, once you gravel it, nobody's ever gonna rake up the gravel,
Right.
it's just gonna be a couple of
Right.
years before somebody says, oh, let's throw down some pavement.
But Dil-
So this is a great compromise, I think
It
this
is.
works, because what we want at the museum is to safeguard the integrity of the center of our green space.
Yeah.
So we're willing to cut away the edging for you, but we want that center green
Right.
space.
I see Dick scowling a little bit back there, but I think he'll be okay. Okay. I'm just picking on you, Dick. So,
One thing too, I'm not sure, but a select board cannot hold somebody hostage over a certain number of years, right? I mean, we can't make a ruling that some other select board down the road can. Right. So, I think I'd like to see us do something that would
protect it. but
protect it, and Dick knows how to word that
Dick's
stuff.
creative, he
It
can
does
figure
want
it out.
to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any other comments about the dog park or the park?
Just again, tell Malia that's a pretty cool project.
Very cool. That's why I wanted to recognize her for that.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
My name's Ryan Farrell. I actually live at the house at the end of West High Street. It's my daughter that kind of interrupted you guys' meeting. I'm sorry about that.
She just introduced herself, that's all.
Yeah.
I wish I had something better to offer. I know you've already spent a lot of time planning space for parking, but I'm gonna be really unhappy to see all that green space go away and to see more traffic just kind of happening there. She already will go walk down to the end of the street, I'll be there, but the day that, she runs off and I'm not there, I'll be really nervous that people are pulling in and out of those spots and, I don't know, turning around at the roundabout the wrong time or something.
Right.
And then the other thing is, once you pave that space, you never get it back. You never get green space back. And I've lived in big cities my whole life. I see things change, but I almost never see things go from paved to unpaved.
Yeah, thanks for the input. Well, at least it's far enough away from where you live. It's, it's not like next door.
Like me. Or Mary.
Wow.
Mary's gonna lose her sidewalk.
Okay.
And sometime I'd like a discussion about the property at the school, because
Yeah.
I just don't fathom how come the taxpayers of Morrisville don't have some say about the land that's at the school. If that's Copley land in the beginning, right? It's a Copley gym that's up there that we put up there. Why does the
We
town?
need to research it more.
Because a neighbor wants me to
Right.
find out anyways.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Yes.
Next, approve the bid for the sidewalk.
This is Congress Street that we're doing this year.
Yep.
We'll keep all the sidewalks and stuff on Congress Street.
Yep.
we asked for 3 bids. Pat County asked, and he actually didn't have enough crew to do it, so he finally did.
Okay.
He also went to Walter Construction, and they never responded to us. So Jim Bradley's 3 is the only one that got back with us with any kind of bid. Everybody knows Jim's been working for us, never had a problem with his work.
Yes, he's very good.
I make a motion that we approve Jim Bradley Incorporated to build the sidewalk on Congress Street, not to exceed $35,000.
Okay.
Budget-wise, we've got plenty of money in the budget to do this. This will take care of the reserve debt from a couple of years ago. Clean that out, plus some this year.
Good.
Do I have a second? Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Next, review and approve Capstone Field internship agreement.
Hi, good evening. This is
How you doing?
Henry Brook here. So this is a standard, almost boilerplate type of agreement between Vermont Technical College and emergency medical service field internship sites throughout the state, which include Bennington Rescue, Rescue Inc. in Brattleboro, Regional Ambulance in Rutland, some of the fire services in the Burlington area. We provide field internships for students in the paramedic program at Vermont Technical College. We have one of our paramedics who has completed that program, Diana. GP Fitz is currently in the program, and Corey will be starting that program in August. This formalizes an agreement between Morristown EMS and the greater town government for those students to do their field internships with us as part of their clinical experience. I hope you've had time to go through it. It indemnifies the town. The students are insured through college. They've completed FBI background checks through college. It's, again, the same issue that we've had since the beginning of the program. I was on the steering committee for the VTC program before you existed. And this is one of the things that we wanted. We don't want our students going out of state for clinical experience like other programs do. We want to be able to offer them quality clinical experiences within our state, keep them here as EMS providers, and frankly, once they come to us, use it as almost as a recruitment tool to let them see that Morristown EMS is back and we're back hard and good. We're a good place to be.
This is very impressive.
It is.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing.
And you said that other towns, other cities are doing this too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm very impressed.
The only thing that there does have to be a release of liability worked out between us, the college, and the student.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of work to go with it, but.
We've already contacted VLCT to try to get some guidance on that.
Okay. Do I hear a motion regarding that?
I make a motion that, I'm not sure how to say this, that we enter into an agreement with Vermont Tech and the town EMS to provide, it's a precepted field experience, a capstone field internship agreement.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
Yep, sounds good.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Who are you authorizing to sign that?
Dan? Is that in your motion?
Yes. I have my second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So pass. Next, review and approve financial management questionnaire.
So I have to fill this out every year
Yeah.
for the auditors
Yes.
and state.
I've seen it before.
Yeah, nothing's changed
Yeah.
last year.
I have a couple questions. So, second question down, do you reconcile bank and ledger balances monthly? No. And then are bank statements reconciled on a regular basis? Yes. Are those two different things?
They are, so I personally do not reconcile the bank.
Okay.
So this is asking me, and then I think somebody else, I think Tina also fills this out at a different time, so our answers are gonna be different. The point of this is making sure there's checks and balance within the town.
Yeah.
So my FO means finance office.
Oh, okay.
Finance office reconciles the statements, and then they give them to me, and then I review them and I sign off on them, but I'm not the one.
All
That's
right.
right.
That
I
makes-
don't do the reconciliation, I just review
All right, that makes sense.
their work.
And, so someone else, who does the deposits and,
I do the deposits.
and who does, and the reconciliation's done by two different
Tina.
people? Okay.
Yep. All right, do I hear a motion regarding this?
I move that we approve the financial management questionnaire.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. Next, update EMS roster to remove Amanda Peretta.
She was a member of the volunteer staff, previously authorized by the board, that we haven't physically or heard from in several months.
Okay.
Even reaching out to her to tell that we were going to remove it. So just request that we go ahead and formalize that and remove it.
Does she have any equipment?
I'll check with Corey, but I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that. I'll check with Corey and we'll recover whatever she has.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to remove Amanda Peretta from the EMS roster.
Second.
Second?
Would we like to do the addition at the same time? Since
That's a good idea.
Let's do one at a time.
Yeah.
okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So pass. And now, Bill.
Nicholas LeBeau is a experienced advanced EMT, currently as a volunteer crew chief with Shelburne. He's accepted a position as a registered nurse at Copley Hospital and is moving into the Morristown area. He's been by a couple of times to talk with us about joining the squad. His resume is that of a professional EMS provider, and he's willing to help us with some of our staffing issues on nights that he's available.
Great.
I do have his resume and CV here if you'd like to review it, but I would ask that we bring him on as a volunteer member.
Great. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, we accept Nicholas LeBeau on our EMS squad. Is that, do you want me to say anything else?
No,
Is that good?
Good.
Second.
And a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So pass. 6, review and approve bids for paving.
We have 3 bids that came back in.
Mhm.
All these companies are good companies. We've worked with all of them before. They all are known for doing good quality work. So it's up to you guys.
Make a motion that we approve the bid from J. Hutchins Incorporated at $193,066.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I was wondering about the different tonnage.
I looked at that too, and from what I have seen, Pike actually went a little bit thicker on parts of Randolph Road, and I think that's probably from some of their experience. But we could easily have Hutchins up there times and do a little bit thicker up there as well. So, the other thing I just want to point out, in the past, there's been a lot of talk about how close I can work within the budget, just so everybody knows. Right now, we have $278,000, and I think the swing and the prices will hopefully help people understand why I get a little bit concerned on what the price will actually come back in on, because I have no idea. So, just if that comes up again, we have one price that could all been up around the $83, $84 a ton, and we would have used our whole budget. Luckily, we got one, that was a lower price this year, and we're able to do more.
You can pay more, yeah.
We can pay more, we'll roll back into next year's money. We never spend paving money on anything else.
Right.
It's always capital paving.
What are they paving on Randolph?
We're paving a mile from the Fitzgerald Road, so
Okay.
down through that. And there's a spot up by the
Andy Valcour's
yeah.
and the bump there.
Yeah, they're paving that section. We're just doing a good sized shim there, and then next, my plan is to keep working at Randolph Road year by year till I get the whole thing done.
Yeah,
Is
it'd
it
be nice.
Fitzgerald
A mile.
south or
No.
Fitzgerald?
Mile south.
A mile south.
Oh, okay.
So,
You're doing that at night too?
no, they will not be doing
Okay.
it. Sorry about that.
No, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion?
So Jay Hutchins is the one currently doing their streets
Yeah.
here. Phenomenal job, by the way.
Looks great.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. Next, old business. Do we have any old business? Next, approve warrants.
Make a motion to approve the warrants.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. TA report.
Just a couple things, just in the kind of update on paving project, they've, finished the initial shim and, the initial overlay, and now they're gonna be going back through and starting all the work on the structures, make sure the sidewalks are going to be, that's gonna go on for about the next month, depending on weather. And then, once again, the schedule after that is 1st of August, we come back in to do final asphalt and painting. So, the only things that I heard back from public is a couple of driveways that needed to be adjusted and some stuff like that. But other than that, the review's been pretty favorable. I think that they really are actually ahead of schedule for what they did at night and a little bit more. So, from what I know, and I haven't heard anything other than a few little comments like that.
When are they coming back to finish it off?
Looked like, be the 1st of August, they should all the structures reset. And signs, guardrails, all that stuff done, and they'll come back and do the final coat of asphalt and painting. So, I haven't heard anything, outside unless you guys have. So from what I've seen, perspective, everything's going well with that. I don't know if you guys have had any other feedback. So.
No, just where the transitions are, where it's ground to where it meets the really bad bumps,
Yeah. And then they're really not gonna be able to do a lot about that until that final coat of asphalt.
Just slow down.
Yes. So,
Yes.
so.
It's a lot smoother than it was before they
Yeah,
started.
scarified, it's better than it's been in years.
Yeah. So there's no work being done in July?
No, they're all the manhole covers, all the, shut-offs for the waters, every place where we have a ramp that meets, sidewalk ramp that meets the road, all the guardrails are gonna be replaced, all the signs are gonna be replaced. They're gonna do the bump out, over by the senior center and build that sidewalk and crosswalk there with the flashing sign lights that we have out front. So all that stuff will be going on in the month of July, so all that stuff will be.
Wow.
So it's not as noticeable, it's not as big an impact as the milling machine and the paving machine going through, but it'll be all those things that'll be going on. So there'll still be a lot of stuff that'll be going on.
Will they do it day or night?
The stuff in the downtown, just like before, will be done at night,
Okay.
and then the stuff on the outskirts of town and the residential areas will be done during the day.
It'd be nice to get their new parking done at the same time.
I don't know that we can get that done because we're not gonna be able to keep up with them. And Doug really, we're trying to get the sidewalk prep so we can do that.
Yeah.
And then Trish's pocket park across the street, so. And then there's already hauling sand for next winter, so I'm gonna try to get that done before fall sets in so that
Okay.
we can pave that and get that done.
Okay.
The other thing, 4th of July, the parade, and then after the parade, there won't be anything until 6 o'clock with the band and then fireworks after that. The chief and I met with the highway crew so that we've already got coordinated to block off the parking in the downtown for this year, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's good.
We're gonna start early in the morning, get everything parked off, and then keep a couple people kind of patrolling it to keep people moving and not parking there. So we'll see how that goes. Eric's the MC again, up on the other end. So, we're all set for the 4th of July, fireworks after that. For the most part, I think you have minimal services on Friday. I don't know, are you guys still here?
We're here.
Yeah, and then
We're here.
I'm gonna be out Monday, Tuesday of next week, but I'm still in the area, so. Other than that, these summer projects moving along, so that's all I really got.
Nice. Any questions for Dan?
Bathroom on the expo? Any update?
We finished up final design after all the changes today and submitted everything to the state for permits. Trish is planning on calling them tomorrow to push it along. So, but, we changed the architectural design a little bit, so which means we had to redo the structural design a little bit. So we've got that finished today and submitted. So.
What's the estimated time of?
It depends on right now, on, if we can get through the state, it won't take long to build. Trish and I are gonna start writing the FP tomorrow, but I don't wanna put an RFP out, then have the state come back and change or throw me off timeline, then I've got a contractor that's ready to go to work and I don't have anything approved. So we're gonna start pushing the state to get that done, which shouldn't be a big deal. It's a pretty simple building to get through. So we're hoping that we can get pushed through a little bit. Trish knows somebody down there, she tells me.
Good. Okay, thank you. Next, select board concerns. Judy?
I think the road looks really great. I mean, it's really nice driving in the town. Yeah, and I like the fact that you're kind of narrowing the driving lanes, making the parking areas bigger, so maybe it'll slow people down in the downtown area.
Great. Brian?
I just wanted to say the same thing. I think it looks wonderful. I thought they did a wonderful job. Get in there quick and get it. I thought it went really fast.
Yeah, it did.
In fact, I suggested that they take that grinding machine around the state of Vermont. Because just grinding it down made it smoother. But it does look really nice, I think.
It does.
And the crosswalks. I like what you did there.
Well, I didn't have anything to do with any of it.
Oh, they did that?
They did that.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
because it bothered me thinking, boy, if they're gonna not do that, you know, there's no but just putting them lines there to show people that they're there.
Yeah, it's all temporary, so I didn't have anything to do with it as part of the plan.
Yeah, looks nice.
Okay. Eric?
I had the ability to work with them actually through my work in the sheriff's department when the very first night, that Monday night that they were in town. And I can't speak highly enough to the professionalism. I've been around construction crews, been a part of construction crews. And I can tell you that throughout that evening, I never heard foul language. I never saw any behavior other than just on task, working. I was really impressed with Jay Hutchins, their crew, their supervisors, very easy to work with, and really, I just can't say enough good about their work. I'm really, really pleased with everything, every aspect of it.
Great.
It's really good to hear it since we're hiring them for another piece too. I like that feedback.
Right. Yeah. I had just a couple things. One was I thought it was strange how the stop bar for the intersection up here is way back now. It's back by the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
And people stop back there because they're supposed to, but then you've got to go ahead about 50 feet before you go whichever way. I've never seen it up that far. I don't know if you know that's Richard.
Well, I noticed it.
But that seems very odd.
Yeah.
And but
I think they were getting stuff out and not necessarily according to a plan.
right. Well, it's not where it was. I know they're probably trying to accommodate where Congress Street comes in, but it's really way back. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to bring up about Corey, that was a great presentation. And again, I appreciate you bringing this. The story was great. I used the same story on Facebook, and she got almost 1,000 likes on it. You know, it's incredible, and the comments were just overwhelming. But I also have been in touch with the state, and Dave Iacovone is planning on doing a special proclamation on the 4th of July, and maybe working with you as the MC and doing it there when the Grand Marshal comes through. And
she's actually going to be on vacation.
Yeah. Right. Well, they want to do something like that, you know. So we can talk about it, but that was the tentative plan. Maybe we can change the time or something, but it's a big deal to get a state proclamation. So it may be possible to do it, have the governor do it sometime.
And we've also submitted for the federal award. And that, I've heard back from Trevor Whipple on that.
Yeah, I know.
And that's essentially a 2-year process. So
Right.
that's not going to move quickly.
It's a very special
The
thing.
ones that were just awarded a couple of months ago were actually from the 2016, 2017 nomination period.
Yeah.
So it's about a 2-year lead time.
Yeah.
But we'll keep it on the front burner. We're advantageous that the chairman of that committee is a Vermonter.
Right.
And Trevor's pretty excited about getting the nomination from his home state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very special thing. It touches me because I've been involved in that. You know, I was on rescue for 35 years, and I actually had a similar situation in Elmore where there was a head-on and a young boy was trapped in the car, and the car was catching on fire. Same thing. He was unfortunately deceased inside the car. You know, I was in the car with him, and it caught on fire, and I had to get out. But that was years ago. I totally feel for that situation, and you don't have to stay. You know, you just something beyond what your duty is makes you do it. So it's a pretty cool thing. And she's very, very humble and doesn't ever, pat herself on the back, but she should be. So anyways, the last thing I wanted to mention was Malia in the dog park. She did so much work for this, and I kind of saw her eyes kind of sink a little bit because she put a lot of time and effort into trying to get the dog park together, and I think the dog park is excellent. And I think it was a good conversation here tonight to try to come up with something. And I wanted to thank her when she was still here, because it is a big deal. She's young and she's seeing how everything works, and what she's trying to do is a great thing for the town. So
I think she was nervous about talking.
Yeah.
But she's been working with Trish. Copley's not gonna do the 5K this year that they've been doing for years at Rocktoberfest. So Malia is taking over the whole 5K.
That's awesome.
To raise money for a dog park.
That's
She
great.
sent out sponsor letters to.
That's great.
exciting.
Great.
for it, so
Well, good for her.
Wow.
just continue
Tell her we
to
said
space.
thank you. Yeah. All right, that's all I had. Other business, is there any other business tonight?
I move we enter executive session to discuss appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee of the body will clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage pursuant to Title I VSA, Section 313, Subsection 4 of the Vermont statutes to include Dan Lindley.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed.
I make a motion that we authorize Dan Lindley, the town administrator, to offer the position of permanent full-time highway laborer to Michael Buchanan at step 9 at a rate of $16.78 per hour.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
That is step 9 of the laborer scale?
That's correct. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed.
Further, I move that we authorize Dan Lindley, town administrator, to offer the position of permanent full-time highway foreman to Kevin Barrows at step 12 at a rate of $24.12 per hour.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
And again, that is on the foreman's scale,
Correct.
step 12.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed.
I move that we adjourn.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed.